This is your stimulus check updated information. That new infrastructure bill has been passed. It's going to go to President Biden's desk. He's going to try to get that signed and put into plans where he's going to start to get more jobs, get more money out to people that are looking for jobs, infrastructure, things like that. Also, he's going to be trying to get that new bill, the spending bill, trying to get that passed in Congress so he can sign that and get that done. That's going to be another big, giant, probably $3 trillion budget plan that he's going to try to sign off on. It's going to put a lot of pressure on the dollar. It's going to put a lot of more inflation out there, but possibly this is going to extend a lot of the extensions out right now, more stimulus going out to people with child tax credit and a lot of other things in that plan. A fourth stimulus check, it's possible that could be in that plan. We're going to have to wait for them to get that done in Congress and get that done. I want to cover some of the new details with you about stimulus, what's happening right now, some of the states, some of the people in Congress that are trying to get this next round of stimulus payments going out. So there are senators that said that the previous checks weren't enough. So Elizabeth Warren, Bernie Sanders, and Cory Booker are among lawmakers who have previously said that the previous $1,400 stimulus check isn't sufficient to help cash-strapped families. In a letter, they said these payments help keep families out of poverty, but they also act as an economic stimulus to increase spending and supporting jobs. Now is the time for boldness. So the whole stimulus plan, they're trying to get more stimulus out so people can actually spend it in the economy. The thing is a lot of people are taking that money and investing it, put it in the stock market, or they're just putting it in the bank and they're holding on to it. So the Golden State stimulus check, so who qualifies for that? You must have filed your returns in 2020 before October 15th, have California adjusted gross income of $75,000 or less, have wages of $0 to $75,000, be a California resident, and then it says be a California resident more than half of the 2020 tax year. So Golden State stimulus, California is one of the states is sending out stimulus checks. There's a lot more states that are sending out checks. Florida, Tennessee, Georgia, Michigan, they're all sending out $1,000 payments to teachers. Florida is also sending out checks to EMTs. So there's more money going out. Now, each of these states has until December 31st, the end of this year, to send out either stimulus or they have to give the money back. So I think they're going to probably send out stimulus in some type of program because I don't think the states will want to send that money back to the federal government. Some of the other states are actually giving money back to people that go back to work. So Maine Governor Janet Mills offered employers a $15 payment for workers who start jobs between 15th and June 30th. She predicted that the cash could reach up to 7,500 people living in the state. Also, Kentucky Governor Andy Beshear revealed in June that up to 15,000 residents in the state would be paid $1,500 bonus if they return to the workplace. He said, "We want every Kentuckian working and participating as we sprint out of this pandemic with our economy booming." I like what they're doing with those states. I think the federal government, I think Joe Biden should come out and say, look, we're going to give everybody a check to go back to work. That would stimulate the economy big time versus just sending out checks and hopefully those people use that money. But getting people back to work is going to be great. That would get people motivated. There are about 11 million jobs available right now, and they're not filling those quickly enough. So it's good that there are a lot of jobs available. But some of the other states are still going to be sending out these checks. Stimulus for returning to work. You have Arizona is another state, and Connecticut is another state also. So in Arizona, it says people in some states could receive an extra stimulus check worth up to $2,000 if they return to the workplace. For instance, Republican Doug Ducey of Arizona proposed the back to work in May. Americans that landed a full-time job would receive a one-time stimulus check of $2,000 and would receive a $1,000 cash payment for people who scored part-time positions. That's good news for states like that. So California is the only state that's actually sending out more stimulus. Some of the other states are sending out stimulus to get people back to work. So President Biden, he's hoping that this infrastructure bill will go out quickly and try to get jobs back quickly. He says the Biden administration is racing to implement parts of the infrastructure bill as quickly as it can, hoping it can turn the legislation into jobs as it tries to make the case for the White House's leadership on the economy. President Biden has seen his approval ratings falter and rising gas and food prices and frustrations over goods shortages. On Wednesday, inflation hit its highest annual rate in 30 years. So inflation year to date is 6.2%. That's a huge number, and it's the highest annual inflation over the 30 years. Now, President Biden is really not, when people blame him for the inflation, it's not really him, it's the Federal Reserve. They're the ones that create the money. They're the ones that are inflating this money supply so much. They printed so much money over the course of the past 2 years that all that money is being it's diluting. It's just basically creating so much inflation because you print so much money, and when you inflate the money supplies by the much as they've done that, all the prices are going to continue to go up. But the infrastructure bills can generally take months or even years to really turn into concrete construction jobs, and some parts of the current bill will take significant time to implement. It's unclear if the administration will win political points for the measures sent to Biden by the House on Friday. But officials say that Americans will begin to see some impacts of the infrastructure bill in the coming months, particularly as they relate to projects funded through existing programs. So if you are in things like roads, bridges, broadband, some of these industries that they're going to try to funnel a bunch of money into, you might see some big benefits. You might see some more paycheck wages. You might see more business coming your way. It says at DOT, we're already rolling up our sleeves and getting to work on the immediate and long-term initiatives in the BID. Transportation Deputy Secretary Polly Trotton said on Tuesday, using the acronym used by the administration for the bipartisan infrastructure deal. The White House announced on Tuesday, for example, that the Transportation Department plans to open up competition for the first round of port infrastructure grants funded by the bill within 90 days as part of a broader effort to ease supply chain bottlenecks, slowing down the delivery of goods. The bottleneck really is coming down to the problem that truckers don't want to pick up the goods because they're not getting paid that well. The truckers should be paid more. They should have their wages increased. They should not have to spend all that money on their truck. That's what's happening right now, and that's why we're seeing supply chains, because truckers just don't want to go and pick up the goods. I know there are countless numbers of shovel-ready projects, said Tom Perez, former Democratic National Committee, who is running for governor of Maryland. We need to make sure on the first infrastructure bill that we see tangible evidence of this bill as soon as possible. And I know the Biden administration has been preparing that, and I know that states are very anxious to get these projects underway because there's such a backlog. Who knows if that money is actually going to be getting into these projects. A lot of times this money gets put into government programs, and the government takes that money and uses it for whatever administrative things that they have going on. Will it get to a construction company? Will it get to a broadband company? Will it get to a company that's redoing bridges? Is that money going to be going into them? Who knows? A lot of times they don't get a full impact of an infrastructure bill. Most of the time it's just going to governments with their transfer and paper. So Bill Galston, chair of the Brookings Institute Governance Studies Program and former domestic policy aide to President Clinton, said it was important that Biden not focus too much on the benefits that the bill will bring in the future and to focus instead on making sure that some of these benefits show up now or as close as now as possible. So one of the things that the infrastructure bill is going to do is it's going to increase the money supply. They're going to have to print more of this. The government doesn't take in taxes enough. They're continuously spend. The government's never going to come in and say, let's try to take some of the government programs down. Let's work within a budget here. They don't do that. They just continue to raise the debt ceiling, continue to borrow and spend, and that inflates the money supply so bad. I'm always encouraging people, try to, if you can, pick up some hard assets. Try to get your money out of the bank and get it into either Bitcoin or get it into gold and silver. If you don't like both of those, get it into land, get it into some food. Because right now inflation is running, it's going to be even getting worse. It's going to get so bad that it's going to get out of control. We may get into a hyperinflation type of scenario. I don't know if that's going to happen, but right now the Federal Reserve needs to raise interest rates. They're at almost zero right now. They have to raise interest rates in order to get this inflation down. The problem is that I don't think the Federal Reserve is going to raise interest rates, because if they do that, it's going to crash the housing, it's going to crash the stock market. what they're going to do is they're going to continue to print money. They're going to continue to borrow and spend like they're just going out of control. And what that's going to do, inflation is going to go through the roof. It's going to be 10, 15% inflation, maybe even 20% inflation. That's going to go through, and that's going to raise prices for everything. Rents, food, all of that's going to be rising up. How do you protect yourself from that? You put it into hard assets. You put it into Bitcoin. You put it into gold and silver. Those are going to be the two places. If you don't know about Bitcoin, go to Gemini.com, go to Coinbase.com if you want to learn about that. They're the places that you can get your money out of the banks, get it into a cryptocurrency like Bitcoin, and just hold it there. Don't try to trade the market or anything like that. Just hold on to it. That's what I'm telling all my friends and family. Just let's get it out of the banks, get it into something like Gemini, and hold it there. Now, you can, down the road, learn how to get it out of Gemini and into your own hardware wallets, get it into your own wallet. That way you have the keys to your Bitcoin. So that's important. You learn how to do that. It's something that it's not that hard to learn, but that's going to be the future. And I think that those that get in now are going to be benefiting from this big wave of mass exodus out of the bonds, out of treasuries, out of the currency itself. So you want to get ahead of that. And if you get stimulus checks, try to take that money and buy gold and silver, buy some Bitcoin. Just try to protect yourself, hedge yourself against this massive inflation that's coming, because it's going to come, and it's coming quick, and it's going to get even worse until and again, the Federal Reserve is they're stuck between, they either crash the stock market or they just run inflation so high that it just hyperinflates the dollar. I don't know if their end goal is to hyperinflate the dollar and let it collapse, and then maybe they come in with their own central central bank digital currency. I don't know if that's the route, but ultimately, if they come out with their own centralized digital currency, all they're going to do with that, they're going to inflate that one too. So they're just going to print that, inflate that out. So always protect yourself. Try to get some hard assets if you can, and then you'll be protected when this massive inflation does start to really kick in hard. I'm going to keep you updated on all the stimulus check information.